Hello everyone, welcome back. Whew, yeah, another rainy, dreary evening. I'm gonna show you something here. And I hope the camera does it justice. See this bank right here? You see how much lower that this grade is than that grade. Okay, we're staying here in a pasture. This once was a tobacco field. You can see it out through here too. Well, if you follow along the hill here, you'll notice right here there's no bank. It's just one continuous grade. This bank, this used to be one continuous grade. This was caused by improper moldboard plowing a long time ago. 40 years ago. And it's been that way for 40 years. This was moldboard plowed on up through there. There is no bank at the top of this. It's not there. It's just as steep as this. But this, what happened was they plowed up to this and they plowed it incorrectly, so you wound up with a bank. And I've actually took a tractor and a blade and worked that down a little. It's not as pronounced as it once was. And I'm going to show you what they did wrong to create that. So we'll walk back down here to plows and I'll show you. Right down here at the plows. It's another wet, rainy day. Like I said in the previous video, we're going to get real in-depth on plowing, and we're going to cover a lot about it, and we're going to talk about, obviously I like moldboard plowing. I do moldboard plow my ground, but we're also going to point out some of the mistakes or the pitfalls and issues with plowing. Now, the bank I just showed you, what happened was when they plowed this ground, this side was downhill. Okay, and what happens is when you're plowing, for example, this plow here is cutting to the depth, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 inches deep, and it's cutting a 14-inch swath. These are 14-inch plows. So it's taking that cut of ground and it runs it off this moldboard and it puts it over here. Okay, so if this is a downhill motion, you have moved that ground 14 inches. Okay, approximately 14 inches. Now you come in and you disc it and you cultivate it and whatnot, and that settles. Gravity's going to carry it on down the hill. So you do that one year, you do it next year, and you do it next year, and wherever you start up here, you're going to start getting a bank because you are moving your topsoil down the hill. So on a hillside, the number one issue you run into with moldboard plowing, if you don't plow it in the right direction, you will basically you're creating erosion. You're moving your soil down the hill. You are magnifying erosion. And what happens is you'll start removing the topsoil from the top of the field, and it'll shift down to the bottom. Now that helps the bottom. You're getting a deeper topsoil down there, but over time you lose any good soil, particularly in shallow topsoil, on the upper side of your field. And like I said, you're just causing erosion. You also cause a large embankment at the bottom of the hill. You're grading it, for lack of a better term, 14 inches at a time. So, how do you address that? So, what you do, you plow it and turn it uphill. So, if this is the uphill side, you're taking this 14 inches of sod or soil and you're putting it up here. Okay? Now remember, this is downhill now. And as you work it, it shifts pretty much back right where it was at. You grow your crops, next year you flip it up the hill, you work it, it shifts right back where it's at. Now if it's on a real steep hill, you may still get some slight movement of the topsoil down. But I have worked pretty steep ground for several years using that technique and not ran into that issue. So the number one issue with moldboard plowing, in my opinion, on hillside ground is the direction that you're plowing or turning the ground. So that's what I want to show you that, and I hope that you can see in this video that the steepness of that bank and just how pronounced it is. And I don't know over what period of time it took for them to develop that bank before my dad was farming this property. But that is on hillside ground. Now, if you're working a piece of bottom ground, there's a different approach. And I don't have a good visual of that, and it would be hard to explain. So when we get into bottom ground and are actually doing some plowing, we'll do a video on that and explaining that. So that is one of the biggest pitfalls to moldboard plowing ground on hillsides. There are others, and we will try to point out both the good and the bad of moldboard plowing as we go forward. And we will also try to explain, of course, the proper way to do it to avoid or minimize the pitfalls and issues you run into with moldboard plowing. And that's not the only one, but that's one of the biggest ones, particularly in an area like us with hillside. Now, if people have asked me before, if the slope went this way, in other words, if we plowed it up and down the hill, well, what you're doing, you're cutting furze that allows erosion. That's another no-no. If you plow along the contour and throw the soil up the hill, it keeps water from moving, so it prevents erosion, and you're, like I said, placing the soil pretty much back where it was at to begin with. So that's that's something to keep in mind on moldboard plowing. Now we will there are going to be other videos, but there's going to be a lot of videos on the plowing, so stay tuned with that. But it's rained again today. Actually, we're under a flash flood watch. Quite a bit of rain. It's supposed to snow toward the end of the week. Just cannot get in the fields to get anything done at this point. So hopefully we're going to finish up the maintenance on the plows and the disc, get the tractor serviced, so when we do get a dry period, we're going to put these babies to work. And as we do that, we'll do videos explaining what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what's the best way that I think that you should do it. Now, I keep in mind, there's an old saying, there's the right way, there's the wrong way, and then there's my way. So just because that's the way I do it doesn't mean that it'll work for you. And just because I don't do it a certain way, or if I do it a different way than the way you do it, it may work better for me. The key to farming, and I've stated this before and I'll state it again, is using the technique, the methods, the crops that best fit your operation, or changing your operation to fit other things. You got to be flexible. So, do I recommend everyone to moldboard plow? No. Do I recommend no one to moldboard plow? No. Like I said before, there's parts of the country where moldboard plowing, they just don't do it anymore. They don't have to. Our soils, just the makeup of our soils, the depth of our topsoil, and various other factors, our growing season, etc., etc., moldboard plowing is, I won't say it's a necessity, but for most crops, it is, to be successful. So if you like what we're doing, please hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell, so you'll know when we post a video. And if you see a video you like, give it the thumbs up. And if you have a comment or a question or whatever, please do so. And as always, thanks for taking the time out of your busy day to watch me, and we'll talk to you later.